Hello, hello. What a wonderful evening. Today I'm going to speak about the right to own a property in Kenya. And the right to own a property is endowed in the Kenyan Constitution and in the Constitution of Kenya and Article 40, bracket 1, the core right to acquire and own property. Article 40 says every person has the right, either alone or with others, to acquire and own property. So in this article itself, there is no description how of any description. You can own a property of any description. There is no discrimination of such. In any part of Kenya, but subject to Article 65, which mainly concerned land ownership limit for non-citizens. As far as you are a citizen, there is nothing that prohibits you from owning land of any prescription with yourself or with others, whether you are abroad. That's why now diaspora rights comes in, because we are speaking about diaspora rights. What are our rights in a Kenyan constitution? Not just because you're outside the country, somebody else has a right to take your property. Think that he can deprive you because of the distance that you have or because of your absence. You can think that because you are in America, you have no basic moral rights or human rights to own, use, and manage your property. So in this article 40, it is the right article that protects your proprietorship. So we have sort of proprietorship means that you own the land by yourself. So there is a disclaimer in the context of the Land Act says that you own this land for how many years. So like a case having a title, you have owned your land, you have developed your land, and you want to invest in that land to make it productive. That's now the legacy, because my book here discusses about justice, meaning that through a judicial process, we must go through a judicial process to protect our rights as diasporas, as people who are Kenyan citizens. Also, sacrifice means we sacrifice our lives. We work hard day and night. We save our money and we invest in something that is tangible, not only for ourselves. Now, legacy comes. That legacy is what we are leaving behind for our kids, for our grandkids. Days long when we have gone. That's now your transition. You worked hard, you're transitioning to a long land life that will protect the future generation that we are leaving behind. So let's discuss about the article itself and we dive in what this means in daily life. If you lawfully acquired land, allocation, purchase, transfer, and your interest is recognized in law, you have a constitutional shield that supports you. You think about your acquired land, you underwent a rough process of transfer and all that. And in that, the Constitution now awards you the right of protection, possession, and quiet enjoyment. You want to enjoy your land, nobody should frustrate you. Use and develop within planning law. Protection against illegal eviction or interference. So those are now the things now you enjoy under that article and protection. This clause is strong prohibition. Parliament cannot pass law that allows the state or any person to arbitrarily deprive you of property or any interest or right over property. What is why this is powerful? Arbitrary deprivation include things like grabbing property without a lawful court process. Somebody will go make a dossier, which we call a forged document, a false aggregation, and try to take your property. So that is not, it's prohibited in the law. Grabbing property without a lawful court process. You have to go through a court process. Self-help takeovers. You don't want to do that in legal terms. Like you have people, Malisas, who will go and do things contrary to the law. You don't do that. Sacred land registry dealing meant to defeat a dispute. The cohesion, harassment, or intimidation intended to punch you out. Is land dispute courts often view these courts as a reason to freeze the situation status quo while the case is hard. Article 43, when Article 40, uh, bracket 3, when property may be taken only under strict condition. When can your property be taken? Under strict condition. Let's see this. Article 40, bracket 3 allows compulsory acquisition, state taking only if all these are satisfied. It is for the public purpose or public interest. It is done accordance with the Constitution and an Act of Parliament. There is prompt payment in full of just compensation. The person affected has a right of access to court of law. The practical test, if any one of these conditions is missing, it is unconstitutional. Article 40, bracket 4, protection for good faith occupants in some acquisition. This clause allows the law to provide compensation to occupants in good faith who may not hold a title in cases where land is acquired under Article 40. Article 40, bracket 5, intellectual property, often forgotten. And Article 40 is not just about land, it also obligates the state to support the protect intellectual property rights. Article 40, bracket 6, the biggest limitation, no protection for unlawfully acquired property. You think of a property that was unlawfully acquired without legal process, without court process, somebody want to just assert his own things, try to grab that land from you. The right under Article 40 do not extend to property that has been found to have been unlawfully acquired. Do what matter most found and unlawfully found means it must be determined through a lawful process, typically a court or legally mandated process with due process. Unlawful acquired means the acquisition itself is illegal, fraud, forgery, and illegality, corruption, or fundamental procedural irregularity. So the Article 40 is very strong, but it's not a shield for irregularity. You think about somebody may think that he can acquire, he can deprive you your right, he can impose his will over you, think that he can claim things, he can turn things the way he wants. So you think precisely, look into the detail of the reading of the law and focus on the legality of the law. Our courts apply Article 40 in land disputes. When you ask for injunction in arbitration, courts are often trying to prevent this risk. The defendant transfer land to third party or creates new entries at the end at the land registry. The case becomes messy or the property is disparated. Even if you win rather in victory in paper only, Article 40 becomes the continual basis for preventing the property, stopping arbitrary deprivation while the dispute is pending. That's why your request for a freeze injunction in arbitration is consistent with Article 40 purpose. So you think about when a dispute is protracted, somebody trying to claim things which are unfounded. So you have to follow the court procedures, the court orders, in order for you to achieve the most successful objective. In that way, you get what is necessary to be gotten in law. So in depth, we discuss about the Kenyan Constitution. We talk about Article 40 and what really Article 40 is all about. You have a right to own property, either by yourself or with others. And you have protection, provided you have acquired property legally and by the law. How do you show the legality? You show how you transmitted your money from diaspora, how the property is put, how you did the proper procedures of transferring property from one person to another, or acquired your title legally and procedurally from the company to the land ministry, how the company itself surrenders its original title deed and it's taken to the Ministry of Land for archives. And then a new title is given in your name. So somebody else can try to paint our own picture, his own picture, trying to deprive you your right. So you need to understand what the article itself says, what's the procedural law, and what should not be done, and what should be done to protect you. Stay tuned as we continue to expound the Kenyan Constitution, grandmothers, and the law itself. What does the law entails? Just because you are far, somebody is not used. And rough means to deprive you your rights. Some people use doctored forged documents, advance them in court, trying to get where they want. They think that because you are in diaspora, you have no basic moral rights. They will say, "Oh, you are in America, so that makes you a less citizen of the country, so that you don't deserve to own a property." That is very dangerous. It's be it's be prevented from occurring. Stay tuned, and God bless you.